And we're back, people, with another episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast. This is episode 109, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business. Christian Brindle, Glenn Shelton. It's a Tuesday. Good morning, good sir.
Tuesday that feels like a Monday, but it's
Feels-
really a Tuesday. Chaos.
Spicy meatball of a
Chaos.
Tuesday. Good morning, good sir. Coming off a long weekend. How are you?
Yes. Well, my contacts at the FBI got back to me about your undisclosed location, so it is known now to me where you were. What was that? Were you just like trying to hide from the paparazzi? Were you just trying to poke the bear over here? What was the undisclosed location thing about?
I had probably at least 5 people either private message me or text me asking why I'm doing that. Why are you saying that? And that's exactly why. My answer was
such a troll. You're such a troll.
It made my otherwise uninteresting post much more interesting. I was having fun with it. I thought it was very funny. And then I purposely leaked the location, leaked information.
Yeah.
And I was just waiting for people to be like, it's not undisclosed anymore. I was just having a great time with it. I guess trolling is the best word.
It's trolling. I know you don't want to admit you're a troll, but
I'm the best insurance troll there's ever been.
Oh man.
One thing I wanted to mention. So, and I don't think this is something that I learned until I was like 29, maybe 30. We go away to this undisclosed location, which I can now say we didn't go terribly far. Pregnant wife, we're about a month away from giving birth. I'm involved. I'm giving birth.
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
And we went to Logan, Utah, about 2 hours away. Very beautiful up there. Lots of green, very mountainous, very cool place. That was the undisclosed location. And we're staying in Airbnb.
My nephew lives there. I should have. See, if you had told me, you could have talked to my nephew.
Your nephew lives there?
Yeah, my nephew lives in Logan. Isn't that crazy?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I could have schooled him on the facts of life.
Son, it's time to get your insurance license.
But anyway, we had a nice bed and everything like that. It was memory foam. But still, I have a very nice bed at my house. It's a Tempur-Pedic. Spent a lot of money on it. It's cradles your pressure points, that type of thing. After sleeping in this other bed, which was fine, for 3 days, it wasn't my bed. And my neck yesterday was killing me. My back and my neck.
So old.
And so I come home and I'm like, I just sat down in my chair like in the evening, like one of my chairs in my house.
Wow.
And I'm just like, just like grabbing my neck, and my 6-year-old like, what's wrong? I'm like, yo, daddy's old. You'll understand someday. And when I laid down and slept in my bed, I slept like a baby last night. Like I just lied down watching something, passed out. It was just gorgeous to be back in my own bed. And but the thing is like I don't it's one of those things that like when you're 20 to 25 to 26, 27, you don't realize what a really high quality bed does for you.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I think it's one of those, I'll watch my kids, they'll barely sleep, or my kid just this weekend, I watched him come off the sofa and land. It looks to me like possible broken spine. I'm like, this is something that would probably keep me out of the gym for a couple weeks. It just hits and bounces and rolls around. The older you get, these little movements and something like a good night's sleep, like you really feel it. Like you really feel it the next day when you don't sleep well. That's the absolute worst. That feeling. I hate that feeling.
Yeah. So that was just a little bit of an eye opener for me. Like, here's the thing. This bed we slept on was not like a piece of junk. It was nice, but it wasn't my bed. That was like $5-6 grand or whatever.
The princess and the pea. Imagine sleeping on like 7 mattresses. It's just not right. Something's just not right, Stormy. I don't know.
I can't put a finger on it. Uh, how was your long weekend? What did you guys do?
It was good. My son had a baseball tournament, so that was a good chunk of the weekend. And then yesterday, just got to kind of get some outside time. The weather wasn't too bad, so we had some sun, played some basketball. Man, my allergies are killing me this morning. So I spent a fair amount of time outside yesterday, and it's always that thing where like once I stop feeling the symptoms of having allergies, I slowly forget to take my medicine. And then a
Mhm.
few days goes by, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's just like it hits me again all at once. So I woke
Happens
up
to
this
me too.
morning. Yeah, I woke up this morning and felt like someone hit me in the face with a baseball bat, but I already took Allegra and Zyrtec and nasal spray. I'm like trying everything, but
Right.
that's my only complaint from this weekend is pollen. Ah,
You bastard
how
pollen.
dare you? Oh, I did. This was the other thing I was going to mention. I did get a new book. Just got here in the mail yesterday. You want to guess what I got?
Oh, is it something I'd be able to guess? Or is it just something like that's way out there that I'd never
I
guess?
think you might be able to guess. You might be
Give
able
me
to
a
guess.
hint. Like any type of hint you can give me, I would appreciate.
It's in the world of Harry Potter.
Oh,
I'm
see,
just
I would
kidding.
have never
I was
guessed
just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Like what?
Oh my gosh. It's a parallel series that follows Luna
the
Lovegood.
the Hobbit. I got the Hobbit in the mail.
Buy Your Time Back by Dan Martell.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I've heard great things about this book. I've been listening to
yeah,
his YouTube videos as of late. I like him a
yeah.
lot.
I like him a
Um,
lot too. And I've seen a lot of his content recently. The introduction is all I've had time to get through since I got this book yesterday, and it's a
yeah.
crazy. His story's crazy. Uh, sounds like he was in jail. He ran from the cops early on in life, so it sounds like he kind of did a 180. So I'm really excited to read this book. I'll report back once I've read more, once I've finished. But
I haven't bought the book, but it's one of those
you
things where like
should.
I just keep thinking, oh, I should buy this book. You know what I mean? Like, um, I'm in the process. I haven't gotten super far into it myself, but I'm in the process of reading Sam Walton's book,
That's a good one. I've heard. I haven't read
which
that one.
I'm super I'm not that far into it as of yet, so I can't say too much, but yeah, I've always heard it's just a classic book. Great book. Yeah, I've been getting back on the reading train this year. My original goal was to read 25, 30 books this year. I don't think I'm going to do that. I might read 10 if I can get there. I guess
It's
that's a
never
win.
too late. It's never too late.
Here's the thing. Years ago, I would probably read 20, 25 books a year. Um, when I was younger. Now that I have children, I have
Yeah, it's
so
hard.
much more going on in my life. It's tougher. So I mean, if I can read 10 or 15, something along there, I'm feeling pretty good about that. Um, and I guess, I guess I could count audiobooks. If I do audiobooks, maybe I could get to
I think
20.
you have to. That's the only time I can consistently read is when I'm listening to audiobooks. I don't. It's so hard to find time to sit down and actually turn through a book.
You know what's helped me? Because I'm kind of by nature, like I'm not a slow reader, but I'm not a fast reader. I'm kind of average. So it takes it sometimes and I have ADD, right? I've been told that since I was a kid. So I can read, I can make myself sit there and read,
Right.
but the thing that's helped me the most in terms of consistently reading is putting on the audiobook, putting it on in my headphones, let's say at like 1.5 speed, and then holding the book and reading it along with the audiobook. That's kind of been my hack. I feel like I absorb more for some reason by
Yeah.
doing that, and I'm
No, I
getting
think
through it
that's a
faster.
real. I think that's a real thing. So I was actually just talking to my kids about exactly this weekend, and there's the combination of listening and reading, whether you're doing it at the same time or you're taking turns, and like one chapter you read, you listen to another chapter. It's actually, I think it's been scientifically proven that it helps your reading comprehension, because you're taking it in from two different forms.
Right.
So I think honestly it makes a lot of sense. Also, just I think into like, it's almost like reading is like, you know, when I can find time to sit down and read, it is like a dessert almost, because it's so hard to find that time. So
The
it's like
dessert.
it is like a little mini vacation to be able to sit down and actually read through a book. If you have the audio going as well, it can really help churn through it. The last book I read, well, there's been maybe a couple, but one of the last major books I read was that Elon Musk biography, and that was like an 800-page book. And if I hadn't pulled the audiobook in, there's no way I would have gone through it.
Yeah, like the other book that I think of that's comparable to that is the Steve Jobs one, right? By the same author. And when I was like 22, 23, I read the entire book, but it took me like 6 months. It took forever because it's such a long book. Whereas like if you're doing an audiobook, you can probably get through it if you're listening to a little bit every day, couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. So yeah, I think it's a real thing for sure. There is a great topic that we have for you guys today.
We do.
I want to make sure that we have as much time to talk about it as possible, but I'm wondering if it's possible to limit this to 3 minutes, if we can squeeze in some NBA playoff updates. Knicks pulling out Game 3.
The Cat show.
Yeah, Cat was great.
Show.
Timberwolves pull out Game 3. I still think, be very surprised if it wasn't Indiana, Oklahoma City at this point in this finals.
Yeah.
But it won't be like, I guess,
that way.
Sweep. What a crazy situation. 2 small market teams, really small market teams.
Yeah.
In the finals. I mean, that's a disaster if you're
They were saying this could possibly be the least watched finals ever if this happens. Because I mean, you're talking about comparatively in the NBA, it's got to be 2 of the smallest markets, right? I mean, who's going to watch this? Don't watch it, guys. Let's boycott it. I will say, so I did the one thing I was watching the game last night, Game 4 for Oklahoma City and the T-Wolves, and super bummed. Did you see the very end of that game?
I didn't watch any of the games. I just watched some brief highlights.
They had the ball with half a second. They tried to like lob it to Rudy Gobert at the hoop. It was a horrible pass. They had to like pass half court. Ant-Man was wide open at the half court. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, why not give him a half court shot? I'm giving Ant-Man a half court shot before trying to lob it to Rudy to try to dunk it. I'm like, I trust Ant at half court. But the one thing I was going to say about that game is watching SGA. He has this step back jump shot. Like he does this like little spin fadeaway jump shot. Mm-hmm. It looks very reminiscent of Kobe. It's so close, I feel like, to Kobe's turnaround. It's like, how do you defend that when you can turn around and do that little fadeaway? It's like, I don't know how anybody. I mean, I've seen some of these defenders are just on top of him, and they still can't. They can't stop him.
Like, there's all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I feel like I never heard this at all. People are complaining about his free throws all of a sudden.
Foul merchant.
And I'm just like,
foul merchant.
I saw a graphic that got posted on like ESPN or something, and they're showing his average free throws per game versus like, and it's lower than Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, of course, James Harden. Like, in the scheme of things, like, if you don't, I heard somebody say this, and they also showed some highlights. I saw some clips of like highlights to prove what it was saying. And it was like a clip of Kobe, a clip of Jordan, a clip of Dwayne Wade, all like just totally flopping for a foul. Like, and it's like, if you don't like SGA's game, you must not like any of their games, because they all did the same things and they did it more. They had more
Yeah.
free throws on average. I just think people just find a way to hate on people that are really good. It's like, oh, I have to explain.
I love when someone gets fouled and they get to go I'm all about it. The tough part is some of these ticky-tacky calls where there's contact, and I watched some of the game last night. Like, it's tough because, like, when there's contact, you can see it, right? You see a hand. Like, this one shot SGA had, it was just a tiny little, like, he shoots and literally it was like a high five. It was like a tiny little high five. Did not really affect the shot itself. But it's
by
technically a
definition,
foul. It's
that's by
technically a
definition.
foul, right?
By definition.
The announcers are literally saying this yesterday. They're like, not a great call, but by definition, that is a foul. You know,
I just don't see how you can say it's not a great call if you're also in the same breath saying it's a
because
foul.
you want it like in the playoffs like this, and you know you're in the semis, like you want it to be a good hard foul.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand.
Like during the regular season, okay, protect the players, right? Protect the players, blow the whistle. But man, in a game that's super important, it's a 2-point game. Let's really have a hard foul. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's not fair.
I can understand that. I also think great scoring perimeter players have gotten those calls since the beginning of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like this is just an SGA thing. Like, people love Kobe. I watched Kobe go to the line like anyone I've ever seen, you know.
Yeah, he was a master for
22 for 25 at the free throw line, 22 for 23 at the free throw line. Like, he would get every call. Jordan would get every call. You know, all these guys, great perimeter players, are going to get the calls. So I see that. I see the argument you're making, but I also think like people are kind of isolating it like it's just an SGA thing. It's not as bad as Harden. Harden was the worst of all time, I think, at it. Like, flopping and foul baiting and Harden, when the playoffs, the reason why Harden can never go far in the playoffs is, in my opinion,
despite betting on him,
he can't score without the foul.
Right.
You know, whereas I think SGA can score without the foul.
For sure, I would agree with that. Yeah, easily.
Anyway, all right, let's move into sponsor, because there's a lot to talk about. I think this topic. Glenn, who's the sponsor of episode 109?
The sponsor of today's episode is the Seven Figure University. Head over to sevenfigureu.com, sevenfigureu.com, and you can take advantage of our 85% discount right now on our online university. It's more than 250 videos, hundreds of hours of content on a various amount of really great topics such as marketing, seminars, webinars, scripting, tonality, all the things you need to become a top agent we have in this library of training. It is an FMO's level training that some of you might not even have access to with your existing upline. You can get access to this for a one-time payment of $695. It's normally $5,000. You can save over $4,000 if you sign up before the end of this week. This discount goes away Friday, May 30th. So do not wait. Head over to sevenfigureu.com.
There's a lot of people that have taken advantage of this already, guys. And you have 3 more days to do so. So make sure that you hop over there and do it. Lifetime access, no recurring fees. More valuable than any $10,000 to $20,000 course, I think, that you're going to find. So kind of ridiculous of what the price point is at it. All right, let's shift gears into main topic today. So what kind of inspired this for me was our friend of the show, Renell Nolan of Hoffa, posted this over the weekend. And I'm going to kind of read the post. So, breaking bad news for brokers and their clients that represent in New York. On May 8th, 2025, New York State of Health, so regional carrier, Medicare Advantage carrier in New York, quietly released a policy update that eliminates all broker/agent commissions for new and renewing enrollments in my understanding is their most popular plan, the essential plan for them, starting January 1st, 2026. This move undermines the critical role licensed agents and brokers play in helping consumers navigate, this is Renault speaking, by the way, this is her statement. Consumers navigate their health insurance options, especially vulnerable populations who rely on professional guidance. Stripping away commissions means less support for consumers, more confusion, and fewer enrollment opportunities for those who need it most. So, regional carrier, right, doesn't affect the vast majority probably of you that will listen to this. Affects some of you. That being said, we haven't done a specific episode talking about this from an entirety perspective. We did an episode talking about the Anthem thing when Anthem released their plan suppressions of their regular
PDPs.
Medicare Advantage plans. We've talked about it here and there. We've talked about the PDP thing. We haven't talked about this as a whole. I feel like agents see these news things coming out and these updates and these announcements, and they feel like it's unprecedented to where I can't remember a time where we've seen this many plans going either non-commissionable or suppressed all throughout the year, right? Not even during AEP, right? In the off season. And it makes agents think, we've all seen the posts. You've seen the posts. I've seen the posts about agents.
The sky is falling. The sky is falling.
Asking the question, is this a slippery slope that's moving in the direction of maybe there's just no commissionable plans for us? Are we going to move, or there's very few, right? It is interesting, right? Because CMS has been very consistent that their intention is to reduce plan bias and steering. But the results of a lot of things that have happened based on government legislation, regulations, everything like that, it's probably going to cause more steering than ever.
Right. Right. That's the irony, right?
Right. Like, they're just so incompetent. It's wild to me. That where does this end? Where does this end? What is your opinion on it? You've been very vocal about Chicken Little agents and overreacting and everything like that.
Thank you. That's my
Reiterate
brand.
Reiterate
That's my brand. That's my brand. That's my brand.
Reiterate your brand. Reiterate your position for those that might not be familiar with it, right?
Guys, if this is your first show, if you're tuning into episode 109, you haven't seen any other episodes, you're listening to this where podcasts can be found, and you're like, what's Glenn's brand? What's Chicken Little? Are we talking about an asteroid coming to hit Earth? Maybe. But I want to get into this a little bit more because I do talk about this quite a bit. So there are things that happen in the industry or in the news or in economic news, like things that are either close to us, similar to what Christian just shared, this information about this new plan being suppressed, or the carriers cutting commissions, right? This regional carrier in New York. It's really easy for an agent, whether you're a new agent or you've been around the block, to grab headlines like these and run with them and be able to point to it and say, look, we are being eliminated. They're going to stop paying us. They're going to stop paying commissions. They're going to stop paying renewals. I have proof. Look, here's the headline. Get out while you can. I need to stop selling Medicare. I need to sell my book. And FMO is closing its doors tomorrow. We've literally seen.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
We have seen Chicken Littles, from the littlest chicken up to the biggest chicken. And they all do the same. It's all the same reaction every time. Is they're looking for something to validate their claims, something to validate how they're feeling. And you can do that. You can absolutely do that. We can pull up Google right now, and Christian and I could cherry pick some articles and some headlines, and we could easily say, hey, look, the sky's falling, Medicare's going away, one payer system's inevitable, these carriers are going to stop paying everybody. Like, why would you keep selling Medicare? You guys are crazy. I've been hearing that since before I even ever got into the Medicare industry. So I've been hearing this for like 13, 14 years now. I've been hearing there's no money in Medicare, at least 13 years. There's no money in Medicare. Don't sell Medicare. Don't get involved in Medicare. So I am very calloused at this point. I have very thick skin to this type of behavior because I've seen it repetitively for so long. Is this a good thing for agents when a carrier stops paying commissions? No, it's not a good thing. I want everyone to get paid. I want everyone to get paid their renewals. You did the work. We're a super important part of this, the economic piece of Medicare, being a broker, being able to service the clients. It's very important what we do, and we should always be getting paid. Now, that said, I'm also not taking in this headline, though, and I'm not jumping ship. I'm not abandoning Medicare. I'm not thinking this whole thing's going away. That would be the Chicken Little mindset. So, that's definitely my first thoughts, my first reaction when I continue to see some of these non-commissionable plans is, I think it's an overreaction. I think we're looking at a pendulum swinging, as you like to say, Mr. Brindle, is like, the government makes a decision. Certain things move into motion from the decision that they make. Sometimes it's expected, sometimes it's unexpected, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but it always tends to kind of be swinging left to right, left to right. So this is the reality we're in right now, right? I mean, I don't know what else honestly to say as far as like my first reactions go to it, but what first reactions when you saw this most recent post?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a couple of different spectrums of thoughts on it. My first initial gut reaction without really thinking about it at all when I read the post is I don't like it. I don't like to see it. I don't think it's good for beneficiaries. I think Renelle hit it right on the head. I agree with everything she said in her post. I don't think it's good for agents. I don't think it's good for consumers. I think it creates an environment that favors steering and unbiased in plan recommendations. The more it happens, the more we're going to see that, which ultimately, according to CMS, is what they want to fight against the most. And they're their own worst enemies. They are. They always have been. Let's be honest with you. Let's be honest about that. Like, if the reason why Medicare Advantage exists is because the carriers are better at administering insurance than the government. I will die on that hill. That's why it exists. That's why the government even did that deal in the first place. Right. Like, and, I think, so that's my first initial reaction. I don't like to see it. Now, the other side of things is I think agents that haven't been around a long time in this, and even some agents that have been, that maybe just, they sell, they keep their head down, they don't really pay attention to the logistics of it, might not understand why this is happening. I'll give you my interpretation of why I believe this is happening. So when I first came into the space, you saw, probably more so than anything else, if there was a plan that a carrier didn't want out there, right? Like they weren't making money on the plan, because this has always happened, right? There's been plans where carriers, they're not getting the profit margin they want to see, right? Their actuaries screwed up in terms of what they could offer versus what they could, profit, all of that. That is not a new thing necessarily. We're seeing the spike in it right now and happening so much more because there's been more structurally impactful plan change benefits in the past year than we've probably ever seen at one time. So they're all kind of scrambling to figure out what can we do, what we can't do. Now, back in the day when I first started, especially for Medicare Advantage, instead of a carrier making a plan non-commissionable or suppressing it, you saw the non-commissionable thing a little bit, but not to the same degree. That what they would do instead is they would terminate the plan, right? They would pull that plan out. And I feel like you still see that. You saw 2 million plans terminate last AEP, but I feel like you didn't see as many non-commissionable plans. That was more their go-to, right? Now, why do the carriers not do that if they don't want you to sell a plan? That is the question that it might pop into an agent's mind, right? Why not just terminate the plan if you don't want people enrolling into it? Well, the answer is very simple. Carriers learned pretty quick that when they terminate a plan, that affects their star rating in a negative way with CMS. Their star rating determines how much funding they're getting per member. The higher the star rating, the better for that carrier, right? That's why every carrier wants a 5-star rating, or as high as you can possibly get. So when you have that, like, it's almost like the rules of the game are placed out there for the carriers, right? Don't hate the player, hate the game. And for the carriers,
okay, SGA. I hear you.
But if the carriers pull a plan out, it is more negatively impactful to their bottom line than if they just keep the plan there, they just let it sit, they make the plan benefits go to hell, or they make it non-commissionable or suppressed, right? Like, so I think that's why you're seeing this trend in this direction, is because, what do they always say, right? No matter what rules you pass, no matter what regulations you do, let's say against wealthy people or rich people, they'll find a way to make money. They'll find a way, the loophole.
For sure.
The carriers have found the loophole, and the loophole is, if this plan is not profitable, if we terminate it, we're going to get punished way worse than if we just let it be obscure. So let's just let it sit here and be obscure.
Yep.
So that's what I believe what we're seeing. And I think CMS is seeing the same thing. I think they'll figure it out. I think they will, maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but if you have to be able to, look from even the outside looking in and see, you have to allow the carriers some place to go if they have a plan that's not working. And I'm not saying terminating the plan is the right answer necessarily, but would you rather them terminate a plan that's not working, or would you rather them make a plan non-commissionable? If for me as an agent, I would rather them terminate the plan personally. And so I think that's basically what's going on. It's the rules of the game.
Yeah. The problem with that, though, is early Medicare Advantage, we saw a lot of plan terminations, plans moving out of areas, and it created such a disruption. It was really bad overall, I feel like, for everybody. So I'm sure that's part of the reason why things are structured the way they are today. They're probably trying to avoid a lot of these same, impactful early terminations that we were seeing with a lot of these plans in a lot of these areas. So it's tough because, like you're saying, they'll always find a way. There's no doubt in my mind. They'll always find a way to maneuver this. But how do you fix it? Well, what is the solution here? How do you make it where they can close off a block or terminate a plan to try to protect themselves financially, while at the same time not screwing over a broker or a beneficiary? How do you do it?
I think if I was running CMS today, took Mehmet out, put me in,
you're fired.
This episode of the 7 Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by the 7 Figure Medicare Agent Summit. Guys, it is a fact that getting around other people that are chasing the same ambitions and destinations in their business as you is a great thing, and it can propel your business years ahead than not getting around people and networking and going to live events. The 7 Figure Medicare Agent Summit is the premier event. Every year, we hear year after year after year that it is the event that has the best content. So many events nowadays, they do a lot of pitching from the stage. They're really just there to sell you things. And if nothing more than that, they're just a bunch of vendors put together and they're just nothing but networking. There's no content. The summit is the best of both worlds, you guys. The summit puts together great, fantastic speakers from all ends of the industry. and also get you in a room with like-minded individuals from all over the country that are trying to build their business just like you. The summit this year is taking place in Salt Lake City from June 22nd to 24th at the Hilton Hotel. We still have tickets available. We'd love to have you come out for the event. We are over 50% sold out at the time of recording this, but get your ticket now while you can. This event will sell out, and we'd love to see you there in Salt Lake City. Here's what I would look at. And here's the thing, right? Like, I'm talking from an ideal scenario, right? Let's just assume I could do whatever I want. I'm judge, jury, and executioner. RFK is like, whatever you want to do, we're going to do. You know? I don't know anything about this, so you do what you want. This is what I would probably think is a reasonable scenario. And again, I don't know the logistics of this. I don't know financially how this would work or anything like this, but like med sup carriers are allowed to close off blocks, right? And open up new blocks. Why not allow a Medicare Advantage plan to do that? To my understanding, they don't have that ability. If you have a block open, it's public. Everybody can get it, unless it's a D-SNP, C-SNP, something like that, right? There's special qualifications. But a regular Medicare Advantage plan, it's an open block. There is no open blocks, closed blocks. Here's the thing. People that get into those blocks that close, the benefits will probably deteriorate similar to a med sup having rate increases spikes. But at least they can get out of that plan relatively easier, right? There's no health questions. Yeah. They can change during AEP or OEP. Yeah. That would probably protect the carriers from taking in unwanted enrollments without terminating a plan. But at the same time, it's not creating plan bias. It's the plan's off the market, basically, right? But it's grandfathered in. And then if the benefits go to hell, those people can change plans if they want to, right? Like that would be my fix, I guess, if that logistically would work.
What's interesting too, though, if you think about this whole scenario that we've encountered of plan suppression, essentially call centers are being targeted. If you really think about it, if you're a face-to-face field agent, and even if you're not used to writing paper apps, you can easily pull a paper app out and still get paid. So it might be an interesting pendulum swing going into this AEP, where previously we felt like the rules kept getting stacked in favor of the call centers, right? Call recording. They don't have to worry about the 48-hour rule if it's an inbound call. Like all of these things where people just felt, the little agents, the little Billies out there, who felt like they were being stomped on. This could be a
Billy.
It could kind of swing back the other way, where you might have a gold mine in front of you if you can still get paid on all of these apps and you just have to write paper. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but call centers aren't doing it. I tell you right now, they're not going to touch paper apps. There's no way.
Imagine this, if you will. Your sales pitch could be, why go with me versus the big call center as your little Billy agent on the corner.
Yep.
Why go with me? Because I can offer more plans than the big guys can. I can offer you more of your options than they can. That's powerful. If I'm a beneficiary, I'm like, I can offer everything they can, but I can offer more.
Yeah.
I used to get business as a little Billy agent because when I was going up against national call centers and things like that, someone's talking to them, they're talking to me, whatever it might be. One of my pitches that was very effective was, at the time, I have regional carriers they don't have. So I'd use that in my back pocket. Even if I went with a national carrier at the end of the appointment, even if that's where we went anyway, I have more of your options.
Yeah.
Than the big guy does. And that is a pitch that is going to be there for agents that are going to do face-to-face more than ever. I mean, you do every application you can in electronic, but maybe you keep a stack full of paper apps handy in case something like that. Now, do you like to see carriers pull in the WellCare non-commissionable past, present, future commissions. No, you don't like that. But the vast majority of carriers I've seen that have made changes are moving more towards suppression opposed to commission polling.
Right.
Especially on the MA side, PDP is a totally different animal. But yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that is such a good point because it might be the start of the pendulum swinging to the other way to the people that can spot it. That if you're willing to do some face-to-face stuff, if you have an office, you get people to come into your office or you go to their house, whatever it is, you have a leg up in a lot of ways.
They'll never see it that way though. That's the part that kills me is they'll just complain about it some more. You know, these little
Yeah.
billies out there, guys, this could be a huge opportunity for you. Like, again, there's no way these massive call centers are going to start writing paper apps. There's just no way.
No.
There's no way. They don't have the infrastructure for it. They're not going to start doing the mail. There's no way. I'm telling you right now, maybe some small operations will do some paper apps, but none of these giant operations will do it. And so, you know, I'm sure some of you might do it, but there's going to be a lot of you who've complained about the call centers before. Now you technically have an arena where the rules are slightly favored towards you because they cannot and will not do it. But you'll still complain. You'll still complain. You'll still figure out a way to say, oh, well, I really wanted to do an e-app and now I can't do that. And so my life's ruined. You know, it's over. I would like to think there is some sort of middle ground here because, like, on one hand, I agree with CMS. Like, we should try to avoid steering. But on the other hand, what's going on is creating these steering environments where people are going to be placing individuals with specific carriers based on, you know, their ability to do business and potentially commission as well. So it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
The current environment allows the carriers to steer to what they want, right? Like the carriers can determine this block of business is hurting us or it's not as profitable as this block of business. So we're going to suppress it. And we're going to see our enrollments drop off 95%. Right. And that's what we want, right? Like the carriers control the steering in a way that I don't think they ever have before. Maybe not necessarily steering always to them, but it's steering towards the plans they want you to enroll into.
Right.
Which is a new territory, right? Like I think CMS will probably be looking at this and in their future regulations, they will probably be trying to address this, would be my guess. If I worked at CMS, that's what I would be looking at. I wouldn't be worried about the little Billy agent, you know? And so, you know, that's my, that's kind of what I would expect to come down the pipeline at some point. But yeah, I mean, the carriers have the ability to steer into the plans in a way that I don't know if we've ever seen before. And I think if you're an agent, understanding, I think the agent looks at it from the perspective, right? The ones that you're talking about, the Chicken Little agents, the ones that are freaking out, they're running in circles.
Yes.
They're looking at it from the perspective of, oh, more and more plans are going suppressed or non-commissioned. This is a trend, and eventually this will be all plans. I don't think that's the message. I think the message is carriers have found a new way to, instead of terminating plans, it's better off for them to just de-incentivize enrollment into that plan, make it more difficult to enroll into that plan.
Yeah.
And that's where this is coming from. Yep. 10 years ago, these would have been plans that you would have seen terminate because the carrier didn't want it anymore. That's what you would have seen. But the termination cost them more than keeping people from enrolling into the plan. And that's what's going on. I don't think there's any big conspiracy to cut agents out. I think you've seen a situation with the Inflation Reduction Act. People get mad at me when I say this, but how can you not say this is tied to that? The carriers are taking on more prescription drug claims, all carriers, in an unprecedented way. They're paying out more in claims on drug costs than they ever have before. So they have to find a way to protect their profits. Plan benefits get cut. Plans that are too good, too rich in benefits have to be suppressed or de-incentivized enrollment. That's what's going on here. And if they just turn around and terminate that plan, it costs them way more. So it's just a new landscape. It's a new environment that we didn't have 10 years ago.
Where do you see the future of this? Because again, this is where the Chicken Littles love to speculate, right? Where maybe they'll concede on today's point, where it's like, okay, the majority of the market's still intact today, but we're seeing the slow erosion of the landscape. So what does the future look like from here, as far as maybe this AEP, or maybe even you could jump out to the next AEP? Are we going to see more of the same that we're seeing right now? Are we going to see it start to correct? What do you think the next 6 to 18 months looks like?
I think we probably see more of the same for a little while, maybe another year, maybe another year and a half. So for that time period you said 6 to 18 months, I'd say we see more of the same. Because if you look at trends, right? Think about the biggest problem in Medicare for a long time, and if you asked an agent, was the commercials, the misleading advertising, right? The celebrity commercials. Those went for years before anything was done.
It's true.
So this will go on for years, is my prediction. But after that, I think CMS will try to take steps in their regulation, because CMS is slow moving, right? Many people have to be victimized before they actually do anything. I don't think enough people have been victimized yet. And so I would say 2 years from now, you will start to see them start passing regulation in an attempt to stop carriers from being allowed to do this. You can't make plans non-commissionable anymore. If a plan's going to be out there, it has to be commissionable, or you can't suppress plans anymore. Like, they're going to probably eventually take steps to correct that. And then the carriers will have to find a new, chess piece to move. Okay, what do we do now? Is it better to just cancel this plan? What do we do? Do we erode the benefits? What do we do? There will be an action on CMS's part and a reaction from the carriers. That's what we always see. You go back to any point in time. That's the way this goes. Action, then reaction. And right now we're seeing a reaction to the action of the rules being incentivized to allow the carriers to do this, and also them having to pay so much more claims out in the Inflation Reduction Act. So again, I think this will go for a while longer. I don't think we'll see anything change in the next 6 to 18 months. But after that, I would expect them to try to fix it, address it, put out regulations to kind of change the rules a little bit on the carriers. And then the carriers will have to figure out a new way to pivot. That's what I think we'll see.
So my only disagreement from everything you said there would be, if there was a change with the prescription drug costs, which we've seen some discussion with the Trump administration.
Yes.
Over basically, right now the carriers are taking it in the shorts because they're having to eat these losses. The Trump administration is essentially trying to shift those losses to the pharmaceutical manufacturers and be like, you can't charge this much for a prescription drug, period. So obviously that's kind of in limbo right now. I'm not aware of anything that's officially happened. I believe it was an executive order that got signed. So again, legally, this is not my expertise. I can't tell you where this whole situation's at, but we know it's being discussed and we know they're trying to take action on it. So my opinion is that the only way we could maybe see a radical change on this sooner would be if something like this were to happen. If manufacturers of these pharmaceuticals were to all of a sudden have hard caps in place, Which honestly, I'm a free market capitalist, but there it does seem like there needs to be some type of, you know, something with capping or some way of keeping it in check. You know, there's got to be something. I don't know what that looks like, to be
Yeah.
honest.
And that could definitely change this whole thing if that actually did happen.
Yeah.
I think if it does happen, I think it's going to take a while. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. Um, you probably need legislation passed for that actually to really be
Yeah.
enforceable,
Yeah.
would be my guess. Um, and who knows? Maybe we see 2 years of the same, and then something finally does get passed. Because right, like legislation takes a long time to pass. And in like the case of the Inflation Reduction Act as an example, it had effective dates that in some cases, in some aspects of the details of it, didn't kick in for years. We're talking like sometimes 2-3 years out from when the bill was actually passed. Wouldn't surprise me if any legislation would work kind of like that, to where we're if they pass something and then years out. So maybe it's not CMS regulation or ruling that's put out that changes things. Maybe it's that, but I don't think it's going to happen in the next 6 to 18 months. I just can't see anything happening that quickly.
Yeah, that's it. It moves so slow, right? I mean, that's the thing. These changes take so much time. So it probably won't. It probably will be more of the same. I think that's kind of the bitter pill to swallow here at the end of this conversation is, we talk about Chicken Little and we talk about the fear of some of you out there who are listening, watching this. The fear is very real. And I want to try to uh, pass along a message of peace. I want to give you guys peace of mind. I want to give you
Peace.
guys peace of mind, right? I want to give you peace of mind that you don't need to be up all night worrying that your career is going to end tomorrow, because I don't think it is. I genuinely don't think it is. But the bitter pill you have to swallow at the end of this conversation is it is probably going to be turbulent air, turbulent water for the next year, 2 years. It probably will be. It probably will be more of the same. Some plans might disappear. Some plans might become non-commissionable. We might see more suppression. We might see other major carriers try to suppress certain plans. I'm sure we will. To some degree, I'm sure we will. But this idea that so let me rephrase this question. Let me rephrase this question for you is how do you if an agent has this level of fear, right? They
Mm-hmm.
see something like what just happened with this regional carrier in New York. What is the best course of action for this agent who is extremely fearful? What actionable advice would you give an agent that's listening or watching this and they're just genuinely freaked out by the market conditions? What would you tell
Yeah,
them to do?
I think the answer is something we've already talked about on the show. From the, like if you are an agent, let's say you're a little Billy agent, you're out there selling,
Yeah.
you're not in a call center, you're independent agent, you're field agent. If you look at the actual number, and it's going to vary a little bit, right? Like some of your markets are going to have more non-commissionable plans in and of itself. But for a lot of you, if you look at the plans that are affected, you have non-commissionable plans in your market most likely, but the vast majority of them are probably suppressed plans that you can still sell if you do paper.
Yeah.
So if that plan turns out to be the best for the client when you do your comparison, you can still sell it. Do the paper, right? Like do the
Do the
paper.
paper.
Do the paper.
Paper.
Do the paper. And lean into that, because you're going to have an edge over all the field agents that aren't willing to do that are like, oh, can't do it electronic, not doing it. Like there's going to be field agents that take that approach. You have an advantage over these guys. And you don't have to You can do an app over the phone and mail out signature pages. I did it early on
Sure.
when there wasn't electronic apps in the same way.
Yeah, I've had to do it. It
Mail
works.
out signature pages, right? Send in a paper app. Because if you take that approach and you look at your market, for most of you, you have a vast majority of plans you can offer. There's probably not for most areas. I don't want to say all, I'm not saying all, but for most areas, there's not that many plans that you absolutely cannot sell. There's just plans that are easier to sell than others.
What about diversification?
I think diversification is important. We've talked about that on the show too. And I think it's good to diversify. I think the most natural diversifications, in my opinion, are going to be leaning into ACA and leaning into final expense. Those two type of things. ACA is a topic for another day. It's a crazy world over there right now. But, I think those two things combined with Medicare are going to be your best building blocks, I think, for your business. But that being said, I think some people will hear the term diversification and think, oh, I need to lean into this other thing and abandon Medicare. And I think that's wrong.
Correct.
What I'm saying is, if you're willing to do the paper apps where it makes sense, you're going to win a lot of business that other people aren't going to be able to win. Call centers, other agents in your area that are lazy, that don't know how to do anything other than electronic app. They've never done a paper app. They're like, what do I do? Huh?
Yep.
Pens? What's that? Fax machines? Durr? I don't have one of those. Like, you can still win. And if anything, I think Glenn called it really, really accurately when he said the pendulum's swinging the other way. And in a sense, it might favor the field agents that see it that way. So, sure, diversification is a big part of it. But I think if you want to survive selling Medicare and you have an area that has a lot of suppressed plans, whip out the paper apps, baby.
Whip it out. Roll it up.
Carriers.
Paper.
Order 50 to 100 of each plan. They're not going to charge you anything. And have them on hand. If you go to the houses, have them in your car. If you meet with people in your office, have them in your office. Have them ready to go. And I think that person has a sizable advantage if they're going head to head for a beneficiary.
I totally agree. And I think, again, I keep coming back to, guys, I've seen the comments. I've seen the posts over and over and over. The call centers are ruining the industry. It's the call centers. The call centers are keeping me from being successful. All these call centers they're saying anything they want to over the phone. They're doing this, they're doing that. You really do have a tool in the bag now to take out essentially any call center. I know it's not the prettiest tool. It might not be your favorite thing to have to pull a paper app out and, sell that app with a physical signature on it. But it's more than doable. And you can even send it in the mail. Like Christian said, I've had to do it a couple of times. There was one time where I missed the signature. I remember I had to do it and I had to send it in the mail because I was far away and I didn't want to go back out there. And the app comes back in the mail. It happens. And you can have systems in place. You follow up with them. Maybe your assistant follows up with them, making sure that they know what to do, that they know how to sign it. So I think there is a lot of a great some great actionable advice to kind of wrap up this episode. One is the diversification. This will be my final thoughts on today's episode, you guys. So one is the diversification. So, and Christian hit it on the nose there. You don't completely jump ship from what you're doing. You don't completely get out of Medicare to sell something else. It's diversification in the sense of, I'm going to slowly start to expand on my own portfolio. Instead of 100% Medicare, maybe it's 95% this year and then 90% the next year, because you're slowly expanding into other categories. Final expense, hospital indemnity, dental, vision, hearing, whatever floats your boat as far as these kind of ancillary life health products that can fit in, because there's a lot of them. We've talked about it on the show. There's a lot of them. And then being willing to write paper apps, I think, is really great actionable advice. Again, if you want to complain about that as a field agent, it's like, well, what do you want? What do you want? You literally are getting, in my opinion, you're essentially getting what you want right now. Is here's a paper app. The big call centers won't touch this. You can still get paid. Here you go.
Yep.
And kind of finally, I think staying flexible in the sense of, maybe you add an extra state. A lot of this can become regional. We've seen a lot of this become regional this year. So maybe you're expanding your area a little bit. Maybe you're expanding your target market a little bit. Maybe you're expanding the number of carriers you represent a little bit. Leverage being a broker, right? Especially if you're selling in several different states, like the more expansive you are, the less you'll feel some of these smaller local regional changes that are happening. So that's some of my actionable advice as we get towards the end of this. And again, Chicken Little's out there, don't be scared. The sky's not falling. This is just another day in the life of the Medicare world. So those are my final thoughts. Mr. Brindle, final thoughts on episode 109.
Yeah, I thought you hit it on the head. I mean, my final thoughts are probably the last thing I said. I don't really have too much to add to that. And I think to what you said as well, I don't have too much to add to that. I think that's the answer. That's the pathway. And I think the last thing I'll add is, you mentioned the pendulum. I think if you find ways to survive the pendulum swinging in a direction you don't like, you're going to be in a great position when the pendulum swings in a direction that you do like. Yeah. And that's been kind of the name of the game when it comes to Medicare sales for decades. I've grown up around it. It's always been this way. There's things going on that are scary. You're like, ooh, uncertainty. Ooh, I don't like it. Scary. And you just keep trucking and you roll with the punches and you adjust to what's going on. And then the pendulum swings the other way. You're like, I'm still here. And, all you goofballs that are closing your doors on within 2 hours of final rule dropping out 1,300 pages, you don't know what it says.
Oh boy.
You're at McDonald's. Those guys are McDonald's.
Yep.
Because they're stupid. You don't want to be. Don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Anyway, thank you guys for watching all the way to the end. I think this was an extremely valuable, jam-packed episode. I think. I mean, this really hits it on the head for me about like everything wrapped in a bow with a bow on it of what you need to know about non-commissionable plans in this whole situation. Yep. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to comment on the Facebook group if you're watching there. Freebie Friday. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe on Spotify. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Here's to your massive success. Thanks, everybody.
Happy selling! Ho, ho, ho!